and we're recording. So we have in a Skype session, unfortunately not with video, but Nancy and Francis and Tony and Andre. Do we have anybody else?
Don.
Oh, Don. Hey, Don.
Hi.
So, the subject of this conversation is what I'm calling the mystery of the Southern Manuel estate that almost was. And what I'm hoping for is that Nancy and Francis will share with us everything they know about this. And I'll start it off, but I don't have very much to offer because I was 5 years old when this trip took place. But we got on a train as a family. It was our parents, Nancy, Francis, Charles, me, Nene, and Googie. Googie was a baby. Nene was 3. I was 5. How old were you, Francis?
If you were 5, then Charles would have been 7, so I would have been 9.
And Nancy?
And I would have been 11.
Okay. So, we took this long ride to Atlanta. And you know, I can remember being on the train. And I remember when we arrived at the estate, just being kind of in awe at the size of it. There was a house, there were barns, and there was a whole lot of land. And I don't remember a whole lot more other than the incident that took place in the driveway, in which I think we just lost Tony. Are you still there, Francis?
I'm here.
We just lost Tony and...
I think he's calling me. Oh, I'm not in the room where the phone is. I need to bring the... Oh, move.
Okay, we're back recording.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Do you want me to start over, or can we carry on from, you know, when I talked about how we had arrived on the train? Did everybody get that?
Yes.
I did, yes.
Okay. So that's pretty much where my memory stops, except for when I was injured.
Okay.
So why don't you two fill in?
Do you want to go first, Francis, or you want me to?
I recall being at the house. It was a very large house. It was it had a kitchen on the outside of the house, and I remember chauffeured limousine, and it was a big gate to get into the house. And from what I was told, or I remember hearing, is that Grandma Spence had bought a resort of some sort, and she wanted Daddy to run that resort. So we were there because she showed, I didn't see the resort, but she took Mom and Dad to see the resort where we were going to be living and where Daddy was going to be, I guess, off in the office taking care of the visitors that were coming to the resort. From what I understand, Daddy did not want us to move to the south during that time because it was worse than Springfield, and Springfield was pretty bad. And they kind of fell out, or Grandma Spence was upset and just disappeared. But during the time at the house, I remember several things happening. And things like Daddy discovered one night that someone had put a box of firecrackers on the register. And then one time, it must have been set up like the bedroom that Nancy and I were in. It must have been a Jack and Jill type bathroom, because someone was in the bathroom and they were flipping a sheet like it was a ghost in the room that the two of us were in, trying to scare us. Nancy, do you remember that?
Yes, I
And
remember that, and we figured it was Mom's brother, Edward, because he was 13 years old,
okay,
and that Edward was doing this.
and the firecrackers on the register, Daddy saw it before anything happened, but it would have gone off and scared us all. And probably one of the kids did that, Mom's stepbrother or whoever. Other than Martin's injury and going to the farm, I remember Grandma Spence was a cardiologist, but her husband, I don't remember ever seeing him, owned a bunch of pharmacies. And I remember going one time to one of the pharmacies that she owned. But other than that, I just remember talk, like gossip type talk about just stuff that was going on in that house. The maids were stealing. There was something wrong with a pan of grits one morning. Mom wouldn't let us eat it. It was stuff like that I remember. I don't remember a whole lot more.
Okay. Oh, were you finished, Francis?
Yes.
Okay, the thing I remember, I'm going to start with the property first. Grandma Spence, Mom and Daddy, she wanted them to see her land. She had a lot of land. And so they went in a limousine, and they drove around the different places, and there was people picking cotton. So at the time, like Francis said, Grandma Spence wanted Mom and Daddy to move to this house so Daddy could run whatever she had him, business venture. And Daddy wasn't going to, so then she offered them 7 acres of land to live on. And she took them, so they did go to see the 7 acres that she wanted to give them free and clear. But there were people picking cotton, and Daddy refused it. He said, I don't want to own any land that has people picking cotton. So he turned that down. And like Francis was saying, somebody was trying to pull pranks or being funny or serious. Grandma Spence had a lot of people that just hung around her all the time. And there was one cousin named Gussie Bell. Didn't like the idea of Mom and Daddy moving to Atlanta anyway. She didn't know that Daddy was against it, but it was like a threat. Mom was going to be moving down there and Daddy. And so Gussie Bell, she was a real big woman, but she just was living off of Grandma Spence. Grandma Spence took care of her and everything else. And there was also Mom's brother. His name was Eddie, that we thought maybe he might be doing it, but it seemed that somebody had, more larger intent to try to drive us away. We figured it might have been Gussie Bell and some other. There was an Aunt Knit.
Yes.
Aunt Knit. You remember her, Francis?
Yes, I do remember her.
Yes. And Aunt Knit didn't like the idea too well either. So that's what I know as far as we laughed about all the time, that we would have ended up in Atlanta if Mom and Daddy had accepted, the land.
Can you two individually describe Grandma Spence and what she looked like?
Yes. Grandma Spence looked exactly like Mom. Either Mom looked exactly like Grandma Spence, except that Grandma Spence was darker than Mom. She was crippled, and she had what was called a milk leg because she got up too soon after she had Mom and brought Mom back to Ohio to her cousins, which was Big Daddy and which was Big Daddy. And so in the process of getting up too soon, she was crippled. She also, Aunt Mitt was pitch black. I mean, she was. And Gussie Bell was a big woman that had hips that was up on her back, real big, bossy woman. Eddie, he was 13. He was kind of, maybe my complexion's Tony's, Francis's complexion, I meant. And he had kind of curly hair.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't see
hair.
a thing. I didn't see no husband. What I heard was that when Grandma Spence went to New York, that her dad and everybody, there was a rich preacher. They had money, and they sent Grandma Spence to New York, and she was going to college. So then there was a Greek by the name of, and Mom had Damascus. Oh, I can't remember the whole name, but anyway, he was going to school up there too. And then when Mom became pregnant, she knew that her preacher father would really be upset, would disown her. So that's why she gave Mom away. But my understanding was he was a student that was going to New York school also. And that's what was told as far as Mom. When Mom, after that disagreement about the land, and Grandma Spence was upset because Daddy didn't accept it. She was also upset because she wanted Francis. She wanted to adopt Francis and send Francis to school. She said Francis looked more like looked more like the people of the man that she had Mom by.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Daddy said Daddy wasn't going to do that either because he said he would take care of his own children. So anyway, we didn't hear much about Grandma Spence at all after that. She just sort of got out of the picture. She was had been trying to contact Mom all the time. Mom was 28 at that time. And she just knew that Mom was going to move there because she had so much to offer. What I remember about a drugstore, I know we would just go over there. She owned that. It was part of the house. She lived on a street and had this big tree lit up. She lived where the rich people lived. And she had chauffeured and, she just really had what she considered a very good life. We would just go in the drugstores and they made sundaes and we would say, we're Mrs. Spence's grandchildren, and we would just get them free. Well, anyway, Mom and Daddy more or less kind of let her know that they wanted to take care of their own children. They didn't want anything given to them regardless of what kind of life she had. So Mom did stick with Daddy with what he wanted. So she didn't hear no more about her. And one day Mom was contacted from New York and said that they were calling because Drusilla Spence had been in this, it was like a mental ward. That she was in a mental ward and she had died. And they didn't have nobody to reach, no relatives or anybody to get in touch with except Mom. So Mom did go to New York. Mom paid for her Grandma Spence's burial and buried her, but she didn't have no money. She was completely broke. She didn't have anybody to take care of her hospital bill or anything. So all these people, Gussie Bell and Aunt Mid and all these other, I think she had a young boyfriend. I don't think he was her husband. Maybe he was her husband. But anyway, they were nowhere to be found.
Now, Nancy, when Grandma Spence died, do you remember about when that was?
I have never
Francis?
I know that I had graduated because Grandma Spence had told me that when I graduated from high school, she was going to send me to Fisk University. That's where she went to school. And I was all excited about going to college, you know. And when I graduated, I don't remember if she even sent me a card. It was like she just completely disappeared. And then at one point, I realized that I'm not going to college. I didn't know about her wanting to take me. I just knew that she did say that I looked more like her mom's father's people than the rest of the kids at that time. And I know that she was always talking about me, about I had potential and all the stuff that could happen that would be good. And I kind of went into the medical field kind of because of her. She saw that I had an interest in it, but I really pursued it after, you know, I realized that she wasn't going to really send me to college on my own. I know that Mom, I'm trying to remember if I was still living in Ohio or if I had moved to California when I heard about her death. It seems to me I was in California.
Okay.
Yes, I think you were in California, Francis. I just can't remember the year, but you...
I don't remember the year either. I moved to California in '62, so it was... I'm trying to remember... I think it was even after Big Mama passed.
Big Mama passed in '63.
Yeah. I think it happened after Big Mama passed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it happening before that time.
Okay, well that's very helpful. That's a lot of good information, and I don't have any.
I will have one question about Eddie. I remember two boys. I don't remember. I'm sorry?
I said, you say you remember two boys?
I thought there were two boys, not one.
There was another boy, and I forgot to mention him, Gussie Bell's son. I forgot about him.
Okay.
And another thing, Eddie came to Ohio and visited us and stayed there a little while. Do you remember when Eddie was at the house when Grandma Spence was on good terms and everything with Mom? Eddie came up and visited.
And I thought there were two boys that visited. Am I confused about that?
It might have been. It might have been Francis. I just remember another boy all of a sudden. He was darker. Is the one you remember, was he sort of dark skinned?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember him now, but I just can't remember whether he came with Eddie or not.
I remember one summer them being at our house. I don't remember how long they stayed. You know, if they spent the summer or they were just there a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember how long. I know it was in the summer because we would go out on the rooftop on Fremont. And, we'd go out there and sit on the roof. Right. So it was summertime.
Okay.
We're going to learn here very shortly if Damascus Bernardi was Mom's biological father, because I have ordered a DNA test.
Okay.
And if he is her biological father, I will have a high percentage of Greek in my DNA.
Yeah.
If not, then someone else someone else was her biological father.
Mm-hmm. And one thing Richie said, when Richie had a search done, he said he called and talked to Michael a couple of times, but he hadn't been in touch with him recently. When Richie had a test and all that done, there was a 13%, I think, of European.
Okay.
But with Richie, that could have been like part, half manual and, a mom's side, and the other half could have been Richie's father, could have been on the Cheatham side.
Yeah.
So Richie's would be a little bit different. But there was 13% European. And Tony was saying today, and Martin said it was 1%, and all the rest of it was African. And Tony said, it's going to be 99% African.
Who said that?
Did you say that, Martin?
No, I didn't say
99% African, and it was only 1% of European.
Well, now here's what I don't remember what I said to Tony, but yesterday when we were at Sherry's house for a cookout, we talked about this, and we talked about Richie having 80% African.
Had how much?
80%.
So
So
about 13% European or something like that.
I didn't have the rest of the breakdown. I just knew the 80% African, but I just know that Nancy, your kids were all shocked by 80% African.
I thought Patty said it was 99%, and it was only 1%, and then it was European or something else.
One of the things that I intend to do
Daddy's
after
grandmother was, I think she was Indian.
Yeah.
I remember her white, long braids. Remember?
Yeah. Grandma Casey.
Casey, yes.
And there's a bunch of Caseys now, and I have some of them on my Facebook as friends because I know they're related. A lot of Caseys, a big family of Caseys, they're all blood related on Daddy's side.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, Richie also he ran on the manual side too. He has all that history and everything that he ran. And he was talking about, like for instance, there were census counts. And at one time, it was Lottie Manuel, George Manuel, and a child about a year old or so, and a baby. But then when the census was done again, there's no mention of that baby. There was another child that
older than Uncle George.
That child was, I don't know if it had died or what, but it was only Uncle George.
Yeah, I saw that. Richie shared that. I still have a copy of that. And I think that child's name was John.
Oh, was it John?
Yeah.
Okay, or was it James?
No, I think it was John.
John. Okay.
James was Daddy.
Yeah, James was Daddy.
And Daddy was the baby, so there was a whole lot of other ones. There's 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Uncle George was the oldest.
And then there was a child older than Uncle George that we don't know what happened to when the next census was taken.
Okay.
Yeah, Uncle George, Uncle Kank was next, Uncle Cricks, Aunt Zeke, and Daddy.
Okay.
Or I might have the order wrong between Aunt Zeke and Uncle Cricks.
I think you got it right, that order right. Uncle Cricks was next to Daddy. Uncle Cricks was the little 2 or 3 year old when Daddy was a baby. That was Uncle Cricks, because he was always trying to do something to Daddy.
Daddy and Uncle Cricks danced together.
Yeah, 2 brown buddies.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Those 2.
And Zeke's in the middle.
Yeah.
Richie also found some census information that is relevant to Mom. And I have been trying to find that. I may have to get in touch with Richie to see if he can send it again, but he sent it out, and it had some very interesting information about Mom.
Okay.
Okay. I was talking to Richie today, and I was telling him what was, you wanted the three-way conversation and what you was trying to do and everything. And so he said he had a conversation with Michael once, but he hadn't been able to reach him. And Richie's been real busy right now, for instance, today, packing and everything, because he built a new home.
Yeah.
So, but today, I know he is home, because they were packing.
Okay. Well, listen, this has been really good. I just want to thank everybody, and I know, Nancy, I know you and Larry and all worked really hard trying to get Skype going, and Francis, I know you worked hard trying to help them, and Tony, I know you and your family put a lot of time in to make this possible, and we really appreciate it. It's going to mean a lot for the family to hear about it. My only regret is that they can't see us, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really good for the family to hear about this. Yesterday, Nancy, your kids were sitting on the edge. Your kids and grandkids were sitting on the edge just to hear some of this stuff, and Michael and I think it was Erica mentioned that they are very interested in coming to the reunion to hear more detail.
Oh, nice.
Martin, do you remember the tape when Uncle George came down and he had a chalkboard and went back? And
Yeah.
he was very stoic.
I have it. I have that tape.
Oh, you have the tape.
I'm going to bring that. That tape will also be played at the reunion.
Oh, good. That's good.
Hey Martin, what does Greg have? He has like something from that storyboard from Uncle George.
I don't know what Greg has. I have a big framed poster of the family tree from Uncle George.
Yeah.
And I made electronic copies of that and sent it to Michael. And Michael is building on that, and Michael's going to do a presentation of the family tree at the reunion.
Okay.
Martin, do you have the Manuel family Who's Who in America?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing, Martin, Larry had been working on, Francis got the first part, got us to Skype. I'm glad you were able to do that, Francis. It took a long time. And Larry's been working about 3 or 4 days trying to get Skype on, our iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And my other sister, Dawn, she came in here and she did it in about half hour.
So
we had technical support.
So we're trying to say we should have got Don involved a long time ago.
Yes. I'm just happy. I'm very, very happy. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, everyone.
Just to have Skype on because we can communicate. I'm glad to have Skype on my iPad.
I'm not gonna do that in half hour.
Thinking about it for 3 days.
I would.
We got it.
I hope.
And Martin,
Yeah.
I think the reunion is going to be very, very nice. But you're doing a good job of the different places and everything. And I regret that I can't be there because I can't walk. And
Yeah.
I regret not being able to be there. But I'm glad that Tony's husband is going to film it. No, what am I talking about? I'm getting it mixed with Tiny's wedding. I can't go to that either because of sand.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very glad for Skype we can even talk to, people that are at the reunion. We'll be able to get, talk to different ones.
We will get a lot of video of the reunion, and Sheena is going to be here, and Sheena always does a great job about putting all that together into a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope she does that again this time.
Yeah, she will.
Nice.
We'll do as much as possible to make you all feel like you were there. Francis, are you going to be able to make it?
No. No, unfortunately, I'm not.
Well, we'll put plenty of pictures as things is happening on Facebook, so you all be able to feel like you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always nice.
And we're going to try to have a computer set up in the building we're having the meeting in. We're having our big meeting in, believe it or not, in a barn. But you would never believe how nice this barn is. This barn is so nice, they have weddings in it.
Oh, I bet.
That's what the girls have been talking about.
I've always said I wanted to live in one of those barns.
So hopefully we'll have a computer set up in there, and y'all will be able to Skype directly in, and people can talk to you while at the reunion.
Oh, that would be nice.
Wonderful.
That would be really nice.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Well, thanks, Martin. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, too. Thank you, guys. I love y'all.
Love you too.
Love you guys.
Don't
Enjoy
tell
the rest of the
Francis.
Memorial Day.
Don't tell Francis what I'm going to wear when we're Skype, because she just copies off of me. She copies everything.
Okay, don't tell Francis.
Yeah.
I'll make sure Francis doesn't know.
Okay.
Well, I love you guys, and thanks again.
Tony and Don, y'all all take care, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.